Welcome, I'm Kylene Beers, and I'm happy to invite you into Tyrolia. This is a place that my family and I found several years ago, about 5 years ago now. This is 2020, and we looked at it and thought, what a perfect place to be able to invite people who need a place to come and have a retreat, a time for learning and a time for refreshing, because that is certainly what it has done for us. Let me show you around Tyrolia just a little bit. It's a historic home. It's over 90 years old, beginning to push towards 100. And when we first discovered this place, we were so excited that Dr. Jansma and his wife from Waco had done such a loving job of taking care of it. They had purchased this from the original owners, Gustav and Nell Pape, who had built this home and called it the Hideaway. But it was renamed Tyrolia by the Jansmas because the design influence came from Tyrol, Austria, where the Papes had spent some time. This is one of the original outside walls built from the actual cobblestones that came from the lakes that we'll be showing you outside in a little bit. So originally, this was the outside of the house. This room didn't exist. And then it was added probably in the 1980s. We loved how that's my little dog, needs to hush. We loved how the second owners carried through with all of the knotty pine wood, which is just so beautiful. When you step back into this room, you're now into one of the historic rooms. This was the original part of the house. This was where people gathered. This is where, right in front of this fireplace, the family always had Christmas. And we love to discover that they celebrated Christmas with oyster stew, which is a long-time tradition of my family to celebrate Christmas Eve with oyster stew. We know some of these small little facts because Nell Pape was asked to give an oral history for students at Baylor University, and she did that, and that oral history was passed on to us. One of the things we discovered in that oral history is that Nell's favorite color is red. So one of the things we did was take back some of the original furnishing that was here in the house to that beautiful red. And you might notice over against the wall a tiny little closet. That little closet with this small little latch was one of several sort of hidden closets. This was built during the time of Prohibition. And because the community frowned on the drinking, then when festive spirits were here in the house, they were put away in sort of hidden but not too hidden closets. As we walk this way, what you'll see is actually the original entrance of Tyrolia. So when you first walked in, you would come around to this rather magnificent entrance. And as you walked through, you would be able to look out to the back. It may be a little glary to see now. We'll go out back later and see one of the ponds. There are 4 major ponds on this property. All of them were dug by Gustav Pape with a slip, which is sort of like a large bulldozer shovel, and a mule. And I think of this as a love story because when he asked Nell Pape to move back with him here to Waco, she was a Waco resident, and he had spent many of his years in Brenham, Texas, and had actually graduated from Texas A&M. with a degree in water engineering. So when he said to her, let's move back, and she had been living in Austria where her everyday view were the Swiss Alps, she said, maybe not. And he said, I will build you whatever you want. And so they brought over, or hired, I don't know if they brought him over, a Czechoslovakian architect who designed the house for her with all of the elements that make it look like a Swiss chalet. If someone had ever said to me, would I be owning a Swiss chalet as a 7th generation Texan, I would have said, I don't think so. But once we found this place, then we knew we wanted to turn it into a spot where others could come and refresh and relax and learn together. I'm a teacher, so what I do is I run what's called Tyrolia literacy retreats out here for teachers who want to come and do some in-depth studying with other colleagues and with colleagues from across the nation. We're excited that we've already run several of these institutes, and we've had people from all over come and visit us. As we walk this way into the kitchen, there's just a couple of things that you absolutely have to see. One of my favorite parts of my kitchen is my screen door pantry. And if you look down below, you'll see that the woodwork was done special to match as close as we could the original spindles over on the staircase going upstairs. Those spindles were all hand carved. If you were to measure them, you would discover they're not all the very same width because they were done one at a time. Also, when we redid this kitchen, we wanted to pay homage to the original kitchen. And from the original kitchen were these beautiful tiles that represent flowers from Austria. And so we brought them from the original kitchen. The architects and builders were great at being able to take care of them so that we could put them in different places throughout the house. And so as people walk around, they can occasionally just look down and see something that reminds us of the earlier years of Tyrolia. As we go, we're going to sort of go around the back way, and now you begin to see that the walls are plastered. No hanging anything here because you just aren't working with sheetrock. And these stairs take you down to one of the original bathrooms of the house. I know that's funny to point out a bathroom, but it has the most gorgeous tile. And if you'll kind of just look up here, you'll see one of the original lights of the house when they added electricity, so that light is also mirrored down in that little half bath. We were lucky enough that the Papes left behind much of the original furniture that they either had made or they brought with them from Austria. This particular piece was a potato drawer. So one side held potatoes, the other side held flour, and these little drawers up here would hold your spices. And then this is where you would do all of your baking. So I guess today when we talk about having an island, this was the original island for a kitchen right here. As we come on through, this was a walkthrough for all of the people who were in and out of the house all of the time, because right on the other side of this wall was the original kitchen. So this one little space right here had been the kitchen. We've turned it into a reading nook and enjoy a space with no television, no interruptions, just enjoying this quiet space right here. Once we decided to expand Tyrolia, when we bought it, it was 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, which was quite large for a house that had been built, right after the turn of the 20th century. But we decided if we wanted to open this up, invite church groups and music groups and groups of teachers to be here to work together and learn together, that we needed more bedrooms, because we think part of the charm of Tyrolia is actually being at Tyrolia. So if you'll step this way, then you'll begin to see the part that we added on. One of the things we tried to do was carry on the very same pine wood that was in the original part of the house. This meant we actually had to get it cut up in Wisconsin because the pattern is not done as often in mills down here. So we went there, got it cut, brought it back in, and you can see as you look down this hall that a wonderful job was done in replicating what was happening in the original house. We did the same thing with all of the doorknobs as much as we could. We took the original hardware for the doors over to Groschau. They were a wonderful business partner during all of this, and they helped us as much as we could replicate what the doors and even down to the door stops would look like in the original part of the house. We also worked with a cabinet maker who stepped in and really tried to give us cabinets as well as create showers that sort of have that outdoor look to them. And then when we got here to the staircase, this may be one of my favorite parts. As we were building this staircase, if you can look up here, the seams of wood go almost all the way up to the top. We think that the construction guys did an amazing job of matching the color of the wood, the texture of the wood, and even the entire spacing of how the wood was put together. When we get up here, we're now to one of my favorite parts of the house. You can see that we replicated the spindles from the original staircase over here, which meant, again, we had to find someone who was willing to turn these and carve them for us. So once again, they're not exactly all the same because they weren't cut like things would be cut now with a machine. They were cut by hand. And then when we get upstairs, when we have guests here, we wanted to have a little place where people could have breakfast, have some juice, have their coffee, sit here, check their email, if that's what they want to do. Again, you'll see our little pop of red. And I don't know if the camera can catch it, but right here is a wonderful magazine page from years ago when the Jansmas added on that front room we were first in. It showed up in the magazine here in Waco called The Wacoian. We were given a copy of it, and I thought it really did need to live its own life right here in Tyrolia. As we go on down, let me get that light back on. As we go on down this hall, I'll show you just one of the bedrooms. We have 10 bedrooms now, and we can sleep about 17 people at a time. So what we do is have some rooms that are bunk beds, rooms that are queen beds, some that are king beds. We're really able to accommodate almost any type of situation we need. As you come on down, you see Again, we've carried out the gorgeous floor that was downstairs. And then I'll show you just one of the bedrooms upstairs. As we look at this room, you can see we've tried to go back to some of the original shiplap, and we've made sure that every room has access to a beautiful balcony outside. And as you look at that balcony, you'll see that we picked up the very same decorative work here as is over on the original part of the house, and hanging down all of the decorative teardrops. So this is one of our favorite places to sit in the evening. We kept the ceiling blue, as is a tradition in the South. It supposedly helps keep away wasps and mosquitoes and birds. We haven't found that to be accurately true, but we enjoy the myth of it, and we enjoy the relaxation of it, and we love that we can look out and see the same blue right now. These trees you're looking at, these are 100-year-old red cypress. They were planted by the original owners. Right now, they're in their autumn glory with all of their red. In a while, all of that will drop into the ponds, and we'll have a couple of days of our ponds just being this glorious, glorious red. But we have worked hard to preserve these, especially during the times of drought. That's why, in addition to the solar panels that we're putting to help provide energy for this house, we've also just built a 3,000-foot well so that we can help provide water for the earth around us. We think sustaining these trees is a vital part of keeping Tyrolia alive. When Gustav Pape first dug all of these lakes with a mule and his slip, what he did was engineer them so that maybe you can catch this first pond over here to the left of the road. When it begins to overflow from rain, it flows, it's a little bit higher than this pond. So this particular one flows into what we have elegantly named Pond 2. So Pond 1 flows into Pond 2, and then when it gets to the point of overflowing, way down at the dam, past the dock, there are pipes that carry that water into Pond 3, which you can't see from here, and then that even carries it into Pond 4. This house was built with the idea of conservation, and the original conservation was water. What we're doing now is extending that vision of conservation and pulling from our other great resource for this world, our sun. And so as we move to solar energy to help us sustain this property, then what we know we're doing is carrying on a story that began with the Papes almost 100 years ago. And so from the Pape family to the Beers family to all of you, we thank you for visiting us here at Tyrolia, and we hope someday you'll come visit us in person. Thank you.